Today's show is sponsored by the law offices of Arman Grigorian. If you're injured in a car accident and need proper guidance and representation, reach out to the law offices of Arman Grigorian, 1-818-404-0333. Are insurance companies giving you the runaround? Don't settle for less. Public Assist fights for you, not the insurance companies. To get the maximum payout on your claim, whether it's for fire, water, or property damage, call Public Assist today and tell them the WiseNuts sent you. Get what's rightfully yours. 818-242-0998. 818-242-0998, because you deserve every single dollar. Also, today's show is brought to you by the Glen Arden Club. If you're interested in networking, cigars, scotch, and a great environment, reach out to us. We'll connect you to the boys at the Glen Arden, and you'll become a member here. Smoke with the WiseNuts. Smoke with a great network. Happy Monday, everybody.
TGIM, huh?
Sorry for the delays, ladies and gentlemen. We had some, I don't want to say technical difficulties. As you guys know, we do lives and we do pre-recordings. We had a special guest on who flew out, and recording went a little bit longer than what we expected it to. But our sincere apologies to our viewers and obviously to Mr. Allen G as well.
Apology accepted.
There you go. There you go. Yeah,
That's a show.
That's a show, guys.
We'll see you guys next week.
So, happy Monday, everybody. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, as we always say. We want to thank Allen G for taking time out of his Monday to
Thanks
be with
for
us.
having me, guys. Big fan.
Oh, thank you. We're big fans of you as well, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You've done so much for not only the Armenian community, but for communities all over from the world, man.
Yeah, we traveled a lot.
Oh, yeah, definitely. From the Israeli community, the Persian community, the Armenian community, the Syrian community. I mean,
Yes.
you name it.
Yeah, the orchestra has been around for a while.
When did you start?
2007, I started the orchestra, and there was a niche for an orchestra with different singers, different vocalists, and making sure that we can cater to different crowds. Because we had, let's say, an Armenian bride who would get married to a Colombian groom, or we had a Persian, bride who would get married to, let's say, Israeli. So we had all these different vocalists that we put together, and we had the orchestra, and it was challenging at first because we had to use paper notes, paper charts.
Yeah.
So switching between the songs would be very difficult. So we would number them. It was a mess because everything was live and still is live. Everything we do is live. There's no computers. There's no karaoke, So we had to, let's say song number 7 and switch from this song to that song. It was difficult. Guitar player had to switch. Trumpet players had to switch. And it was challenging. But then when the iPads came, got a lot easier. We put all the notes, PDFs in the iPad, synced it to Wi-Fi router, and I can switch one song. I can play Billie Jean. Everybody has it in 2 seconds. And we can go into another song in 2 seconds. So I would do that.
So everybody's
Arman
iPad
was there. He saw one
Yeah.
time.
So
I've seen you.
everybody's iPad is connected to
One server.
server.
Yes, my server, and everything I switch, and the singers, they have the lyrics that shows up.
See, this is what I want to ask you, because we've been to weddings where you guys have performed, and you have different nationalities singing Armenian songs.
Yeah.
How did that take place? Because Armenian is a very difficult language to
Yes,
learn.
yes.
And for somebody who's whether Hispanic or American or Russian or whatever ethnicity they are, for them to be able to sing Armenian music, I mean, where did that come out from?
Yeah, so it started when they would listen to the background of the vocals and they would replicate it. And the vocalists that we had are very talented. My guys now, like Jonathan, my male singer, he can listen and he could replicate, let's say, a phrase like Tesselem, he could replicate it. Noel, same thing, the girl, or my other singers, they would just hear it and they would repeat the choruses. And they started practicing it slowly. So this is like the background vocals. So it was very surprising for some of them to see, not an Armenian singer doing it. And of course, my Armenian singer is a maestro. Hovannes Balyans is just incredible. And he also works with them once in a while backstage, the pronunciations and everything else. So that worked out pretty cool.
But what was your inspiration? Because obviously you said 2007. There were a lot of live singers, but there was a lot of DJs as well. Because when you go to a wedding, right, you'll have a DJ, and then maybe sometimes a live singer will come for an hour, or vice versa. You'll have a live band, and then the DJ will play, let's say, club music towards 11 p.m., 12 p.m., midnight. But then you kind of combine the DJ with the live band. What was the inspiration behind
The inspiration was when if there was an Armenian bride that was going to marry an American groom, at that time they were limited in hiring, let's say, an Armenian singer that would only do Armenian. Then the Armenian singer would sing for an hour, let's say, and then the DJ would play. But during that time, that hour, most of the Armenians would have a really good time, but the American guests would be sitting down or maybe dancing to some of the Armenian songs. And I saw a very big niche for that market. And basically, if my Armenian singer is doing 2-3 songs, my Latin singer can come in and I'll mix something Latin, and then I will mix, like, let's say, ABBA or Top 40, and then the Armenian singer would take over. So I would mix live on stage.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we did was unique from everybody else. We could mix 12 songs with perfect matching because the orchestra
like
could
a
play it.
mashup?
Yeah, we could do it. So we could go from Suavemente to, let's say, Hey John Rapama, but doing it live.
Yeah.
This was never been done. So we started that, and it became so automatic. At first, it was a big struggle for me to communicate with the band members. We're going to switch from this song to this song. It was very difficult. Like, the drummer has to play 6/8 rhythm and then has to switch to a 4/4 disco, let's say. So there'll be a lot of hand signal, a lot of music directing live on stage. So that what distinguished the brand, and people would always be amazed. Let's say you're playing an Armenian song, then the rhythm slows down, then you're playing Dancing Queen. And then, the speeding up and slowing down, changing of the rhythms was the key to this. And also reading the audience, which is what I do behind the keyboard. I read the crowd. If it's an older crowd on the dance floor, of course I might play, Tom Jones and Sinatra.
So it's
But
not
if
a
it's
preset menu
never
necessarily.
preset,
You're
never.
You're
It will
going with the
never
flow
work.
and the energy of the crowd.
Yeah, it will never work.
Yeah.
It will never work. We tried it. Preset. I had other bands that I would send out. It was not successful because they would play Besame Mucho when they were not supposed to play Besame Mucho. We had to do it right there.
Yeah.
And this is what it is. It's called working the room.
Right.
I went to New York. I did a wedding there at the Plaza Hotel. Huge. There was a DJ there. Amazing DJ. He said, I charge $12,000. Back then, it was a lot of money. And I said, wow, that's amazing. And he said, I charge $2,000 for DJing, $10,000 for working the room. Ooh. I never forgot that. He said, I'm charging $10,000 to work the room. $2,000 is my DJing fee. That's why people pay me $12,000, because I know when to play Sweet Caroline, and I know when to play the Latin music and when to play Danza Kuduro, because I know the crowd. And so this is the concept kind of that we brought in.
That reminds me of the story where there was an airplane's engine that was broken, and all these young engineers were trying to fix it. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with the engine. They finally bring this older retired man. He comes in, spends about 5 minutes or so on the engine and fixes it. Then the airline gets an invoice for $50,000. They're like, why is it so expensive? He's like, and on the invoice it breaks down. It says, $20 for the hammer, and then $49,950 knowing where to hit the hammer. It's the same thing. $2,000 for DJing, $10,000 for being able to read the crowd. And
Exactly, that's what it is.
But I think we have a sample of some of his music, right, Joe?
Yeah,
Do
this
we?
is like my orchestral work. We have two segments. One is like the more of the orchestral work,
Yeah.
and then there's the wedding band. So I think Joe's going to play something from the orchestral kind of sample.
assez connu, moi qui criais famine et toi qui posais nu. La bohème, ça voulait dire en être heureux. La bohème, nous ne mangions qu'un jour sur deux.
So yeah, that was a clip from 2018 Alex Theater. I did like a French tribute, and that was a big orchestra. We had 27-piece orchestra, and yeah, everything you hear is live. So if there's any mistakes, you hear it.
See,
Everything you see on YouTube or
Yeah.
Instagram from us is just live. It's what you get. And if my singer is sneezing, I can't do anything about it. I can't go edit the sneezing out. You know, it's all there.
Right.
because you've seen DJs DJ before at weddings, at christenings, at engagements. A lot of the times, as what Alan says, they don't feel the room. They'll throw in a CD or nowadays an MP3 and they'll just play whatever is playing. But all of a sudden you see people sitting down and, people like, oh, you know what, let's go have a drink or let's go have a smoke. This isn't my vibe. We've been to multiple weddings where Allen G's orchestra has played. Dude, they're nonstop. We've noticed
Yeah,
that
we mix everything. We mix everything nonstop. We don't. We basically take one break, right? It's
Literally, they
during,
take
one break
yeah.
and during dinner, and that's it. And we try to coordinate that with everybody in the wedding party usually, and it flows pretty well. We do a lot of American weddings too, by the way, just American. So
No,
they're
I'm
just-
sure.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure. I'm sure.
So the American is a little different. So there's a lot of speeches.
Yeah,
a
we
lot
haven't
of
been to it.
toasts.
I haven't been to an American wedding.
I've
but
been to one.
One?
Yeah.
Did you leave hungry?
Should I say it?
No, it doesn't.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah. Plus you have to pick like 2 years in advance if you want chicken, steak, or fish.
Well, what if you want fish that day?
That's the problem.
Or you get into an argument with your wife. I told you to pick chicken just in case.
I know.
when we used to do a lot of the Persian Jewish weddings during the cocktail hour, they would have the most incredible food. So the Americans, they would be there as guests, and they would walk up to me. Let's say I'll be there getting something to eat. They'll be like, "Wow, this dinner is amazing." I was like, "Well, that's not dinner. Dinner's coming up soon." So they're like, "There's more food." I'm like, "Yeah, the dinner is inside the ballroom. This is just outside because at the
This
carving
is to
stations."
cleanse your palate.
Yeah, this is just to cleanse your palate. And people were like, "How can we eat?" And at Armenian weddings, some of my musicians, sometimes at the Armenian venues, they'll see all this food come out. They're thinking like, they don't grasp the idea, like what's going on, all these different dishes,
Yeah.
Our weddings are more of a celebration.
It is.
Thing too.
I still do believe we overdo it with the food, though.
Yeah, 100%.
I really think it's just too much. The less there is, I think the more people will enjoy it as well, and the less they'll sit down and just stuff their faces. They'll get up, they'll party, they'll dance, they'll enjoy, because that's what the wedding is for. I mean, I'm not saying, put some cervezas and some chips and salsa, but, maybe go easy on instead of 12 appetizers, maybe 5.
But these days, a lot of other cultures have been hosting their events at Armenian banquet halls too, because, for instance, like an American wedding, you have to go to a hotel, right? You rent the hotel. There's a fee there. For the chairs, there's a fee. For the table, there's a fee. Catering fee, insurance, this, that. You end up spending $400 or $500 a person per chair, and you get iceberg lettuce, some mashed potatoes,
Bread and butter.
Bread, yeah. I mean, you'll have 18 different types of fork in front of you, and you have no idea what it's for. But then you go to an Armenian banquet hall, $150 gets you 49 appetizers, 12 salads, 17 hot dishes, and 14 seafood. So they're like, shit, why am I spending
Yeah, one time at like 12:30 a.m., they brought lamb chops.
That sounds about
No,
it.
but
That's a
seriously,
great
like,
time
it was
to eat lamb
12:30
chops.
It was 12:30 a.m. and they brought lamb chops.
Yeah,
And
because
we were on stage, we're playing, and we see lamb chops come out. It's like 12:30, and the waiter walks over next to the stage. He's like, "You guys want some?" Like, no, we can't right now.
I think
You know,
I think they do that because they want you to count that for tomorrow's calories. That's why.
that's what they do.
They don't want it to count. It's after
Also,
midnight.
it's a cultural thing, right? It's like they want to say, like the Armenians, we don't want the guests to think that we didn't do enough for
Yeah.
them or we weren't good hosts.
Yes, yes.
But on top of that, some of the close people will even stay till 2 a.m. and order the omelet, the
eggs and tomatoes.
But you know what I've noticed? Some places now they charge you for that because they realized, okay, we have to make an omelet for like 60 people. It's a
Well, there's
little
places
excessive.
that don't even do it at all.
They don't do that at all.
From the last time we were at a banquet hall, and I'll name drop this one, but we were at Palladio. Palladio didn't do it.
Oh, they don't have it, huh?
We requested it, and we even offered to pay for it. And Jerry, who's one of the managers there, sorry Jerry, name dropping, but he was like, bro, we don't do it anymore. We don't do it anymore. And I think it's maybe kind of like trying to keep the class of the banquet hall maybe to a certain degree, but I don't know.
The culture is changing though.
Big time.
Yeah,
A lot of people are getting tired of, the traditional beef kebabs and chicken kebabs and pork ribs. And I mean, we eat that practically 3-4 days a week at least. We're eating meat. That's what we're eating most of the time. And to go to another restaurant or banquet hall and eat the same stuff again, some of these banquet halls are getting creative. They're bringing in like seafood. They're bringing in the
fusion.
The fusion food as well, which is phenomenal. I think it's a good refreshment or change in the culture as far as the banquet halls.
For sure.
Yeah, the wedding industry has changed for a while now. It's for the past, I say 9 to 10 years. It's become a very weird business. The business model has changed completely. Before it was a bride and groom. In our parents' time, they didn't have wedding planners or anything like that, right? So now it's become a norm to hire wedding planners to do the wedding. And because of social media, they've gotten a lot of presence, and the bride and groom will only believe in what a wedding planner would say, not really interviewing that planner and seeing what the intentions are, right? Because sometimes the intentions are to get commission from vendors, to get commission from the florist, and to get commission from the photographer. So this happened for 10 years ago. It started. Then what the wedding planners didn't kind of calculate was that there were going to be much more wedding planners coming into the market. A lot of the brides that got married after 4 years, sometimes they decided to become wedding planners. So basically, the market grew so big, there could be, right now, there's probably like 60 wedding planners in the Armenian market, but there could be only maybe 20 weddings a month. So what's happening to the other 40 planners? So the competition became fierce, and they all made little groups of coalitions they made with florists, photographers, and they would only recommend this person. And if you work with this person, well, I don't want to work with you anymore. I try to kind of stay away from that type of politics, honestly. And
I never understood the need of a wedding planner, honestly.
Either, man.
Look, if the wedding planner is a designer, really, it makes a huge difference. If a wedding planner has certain talent in design, it really makes sense. But they don't have as much knowledge when it comes to production of it.
But
the production side
planner
of it.
in what though, Alan? Are you talking about like the thousands of dollars that people spend on flowers to throw away the next day?
Because there are wedding planners that have an incredible eye, and they look at a room and they say, okay, this type of decor would be nice, this type of chairs would be nice, this type of stage or backdrop would be nice. And I've always worked well with those planners, honestly. But the ones that really don't know anything about production, I'll give you an example. I had a wedding. The guy was a oral surgeon. I see the floor plan. I look at the floor plan. The dance floor is 48 by 32. and they have 250 guests. And I told the wedding planner, I said, this dance floor is humongous. You can't have this dance floor. It's only 250 people.
It's going to look empty.
It's going to look empty the whole night. So the wedding planner said, well, the groom wanted it. And I said, the groom is an oral surgeon. He said, yeah. I said, oh, I get it. So next time, I guess I want to design a floor plan, I should go to him and ask his advice, definitely. And if I want a root canal or a wisdom tooth out, I don't know, I'll ask you.
Go to a floor
And she's
guy.
like, well, this is where they don't understand. It's like they became yes men to the bride and the groom without realizing that their decision was wrong.
Right.
The groom doesn't know. So what do? I call the groom. What's up, bro? 2 minutes. I'm like, this plan? Oh, explain to me. I explained to him. Reasonable guy. He said, Allen, you got it. I'll tell her whatever size is good. I said, yeah, 24 by 27 is good enough. Done. But the planner just went with what they said because they didn't have that technical knowledge of what dance floor sizes should be.
Do you think it's trying to keep up with the Joneses?
Yes.
One person trying to outdo the other one, trying to outdo the other one, trying to outdo the other one?
Yeah, because the only way a wedding planner can book another wedding is by taking pictures of that room. And a lot of times they will bring their own photographers to take pictures of the room that you paid for. You paid as a groom, paid for that room, spend $350,000 on flowers to make my Instagram look good. I don't have that luxury. I have to perform well live and I have to do my job. For somebody to walk over to me and say, hey, give me your card. Because I can't show my work on Instagram. I mean, what? Videos people watch, but they would see these elaborate, venues, and this is how they would book the job. I mean, honestly, if somebody gave Armand $500,000 to plan a wedding, he could do it. Honestly, he could do it. How? I'll tell him, call Reverly to get your rentals. These guys are amazing. They have the latest stuff. Call Mark's Garden. They'll do your flowers for $150,000, and call Amber Lighting, and they'll do your lighting, and the room will look amazing. And Armand hasn't done nothing. Basically, he's let those experts handle everything. Mm-hmm. And everybody will tell Armand, wow, you're such an incredible planner. But what they forgot is that somebody spent $500,000 so that you can say that to Armand. You get that, right? You get the economics of it?
Those numbers are... I just thank God that I got married a long time ago.
No, I mean, we've done weddings in New York, 1.5 million, Waldorf Astoria, Terranea. We've done a wedding, 900 people, close to 1.5 million. Beverly Wilshire.
But what type of people were those?
Well, high caliber, people.
Okay.
That wealthy generation.
Do you believe in your heart that majority of the weddings, especially in our community that take place, those people can afford. The key word here is afford.
No.
To do a $500,000
No.
wedding. That's it.
And that's why those name event planners that were free rolling in the industry, basically because there was the cannabis money coming in the Armenian community, it dried up. So now they're left on reposting everything that they did 5 years ago on their Instagram. Because how many Beverly Wilshire 600 people weddings are you going to see every month? Not many. Mm-hmm. So now they're doing baptisms. Exactly what I predicted happened. Yeah. I predicted this like eight years ago.
Or they're driving Ubers now.
Well, they're not driving Ubers, but I mean, there's only a certain amount of people that it can sustain, right? We can't sell heaters in Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, if we open a heater company in Saudi Arabia, how many heaters are we going to sell?
12.
Thank you. To 12. But that's the thing. If you have 60 event planners in one community and there's only like maximum 20 events a month, the other 40 are not working.
Sounds like supply and demand, huh?
It is supply and
There
demand.
you go.
Yeah. No, for me, like my approach would be what you said is you call vendors that are professionals, right? The flower designer, the lighting guy, if you really need a lighting guy, depending on your banquet hall. But I think one of the most important things is if the photographer is professional and they know what they're doing, they pretty much organize the whole day for you. You don't need a wedding because usually I've seen weddings where the wedding planner is getting in the way of everybody. They don't understand, okay, 10 a.m., let's say if it's time to take photos of the parents, they're focused on displaying their flowers and they're focused on displaying whatever they think is valuable. But then the photographer's like, no, we need to take pictures because at 11 we have to be here, go to the bride's house or the groom's house or park or whatever. From my experience and some of my friends who are, like for example, JJ, who's a
Yeah.
very well-known photographer, he organizes the whole event from literally 8 9 10 a.m all the way till almost 10 p.m.
Yeah, but Armand, there's a lot of things that planners need to do.
Like
I
what?
100%. There's floor plans are a big part of it. Check in.
Floor plan?
Setting up the guests, the
Did you have
tables,
a planner?
making sure that and they're meeting with the bride and the groom, making sure whose table is here, who's sitting here, who's sitting here. The bride's mom, the groom's mom, they really need to meet with somebody. Look, a wedding planner is a necessary thing, but a wedding planner is a necessary thing if they actually do what's supposed to do that day, not to upsell the client, which is what happened in the past 5-6 years, which is they would tell you need a drone show. How much is that? Well, it's $18,000. Well, that's a lot. Yeah, but Rebecca, when she had her wedding, she had a drone show. And the bride will go to the groom and say, hey, Rebecca had a drone show. I want to have a drone show too. So this is let's say the immoral wedding planners we'll talk about. They get the bride emotionally connected to them. They become their best friends. They have mimosas and whatever it is on Sundays. And when they become friends with them, they sell everything. They sell anything. Oh, you want to hire Allen G? No, forget Allen G. I have somebody better. Some karaoke band that lip syncs on stage and dances up and down, and you hire them. And the bride doesn't even question it. That's when it becomes problematic.
It's a fad. Right now, people are into the wedding planners because everybody else is doing it. Again, you didn't have one. I didn't have one. Joe, did you have a wedding planner?
My wife is a destination wedding planner.
Well, yeah.
That's different.
No, that's different. But my point is, now it's a fad. What's going to happen eventually in a few years? You're going to go to, let's say, you're going to use an AI app, ChatGPT, your best friend. You're going to say, look, I have a 400-person wedding at this banquet hall. Here's the floor plan. Design me blue, orange, yellow themed flowers with doves and whatever you like, turtles and I don't know what. Right? And it's going to do it for you. Like I said, my generation, we didn't grow up with wedding planners. It was
not even your
like
generation, my generation.
Yeah, like setting the table. My parents, my wife's parents, they know the relatives. The wedding planner still, who's that? Oh, that's my uncle. Yeah, but my uncle is not talking to my aunt or the seventh cousin, so don't put him at the same table. Like nobody knows that.
Well, the venues also are don't want to do an event without a wedding planner because they want to kind of have a liability issue. They want to, the venues are recommending these planners because they want to protect themselves and they want to put everything on them, and they would recommend. Look,
but hold on, protect themselves from what?
This wedding business is a corrupt business.
There you go.
For anybody that's listening right now, it's a very corrupt business. It's extremely corrupt. So question everything.
Yeah.
Honestly, question everything. I'll be very honest with you. If I open my phone right now and we look at the past 3 years, all the brides that I had, you will see cardiologist, surgeon, dentist, oral surgeon, the guys, top-notch attorneys, doctors, and lawyers. These guys know the decisions they're making. They're solid.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, My brides that hire Allen G don't drive G-Wagons and they don't have lip injections. Straight out.
They do not.
They do not.
That's a criteria for you, or it just happens so coincident?
We don't see it.
It's a requirement.
I'm going to be very honest with you. If any of the brides that I've played at their wedding is listening, upload a picture.
You mean
and
to
show
tell
it
me
them.
in the Iranian community, none of your brides have had G-Wagons or lip injections?
No,
Really?
they didn't.
That's
I'm serious.
It was
I
BMW.
really am serious.
Wow.
I mean, they might have a little lip injection, but they're not. They weren't.
He means to say they're not over the top.
They're not over the
Their
top.
lips
They
don't
weren't-
look like baboons'
they weren't-
asses.
they
That's
weren't-
what he
They
means.
weren't over the top.
Yeah.
They, you know, they had enough stuff in their brain that they didn't need to put so much makeup.
yeah.
You know, honestly,
They weren't insecure.
they weren't insecure, and honestly, that's what happens. And the target of the corrupt wedding planner is the bride with the G-Wagon and the big lips, who wants to show off to her friends.
So Bridezilla.
Yeah, and those brides don't call me anyway, so I'm safe. You know, the brides that call me are engineers and pharmacists and oral surgeon and cardiologists. I'm serious. I have a list. I'll post the list. People can see. These people are distinguished people. They're not looking for that show off. They say, hey, we just want a live orchestra to play music and to entertain us. And I said, fine.
But isn't
You
that
know,
what a wedding is about?
Well, not according to the G-Wagon lip
So
injected
when did we get
bride.
lost in this, Alan? When did we get lost in this cluster, excuse my French, this cluster
I
fuck
don't
of
know.
a wedding planning bullshit?
Go to the Americana. Every girl looks like Kim Kardashian. I mean, this is what is the generation going towards, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's, honestly, go walk around the Americana. I mean, my sister lives there. I go to Amici once in a while and I look, all the girls look the same.
You know what we should do, bro? We keep saying it, we keep procrastinating. We gotta go do Q&As with people where we just hold up some pictures and stuff and just ask them to, like, I don't know, like a picture of a simple one, very, very simple,
Like Albert Einstein.
Like hold up a picture of like Albert Einstein or like George Washington or like Abraham Lincoln and be like, you know, who is this?
No, I mean, what about if you go to a high school and they have to be alone? If they're in a group, their answer will be, you know, not, you can't count on their answers.
Well,
So
what
you
if
get all
the
these
rest of
young
them are
guys-
morons and they answer incorrectly
yeah,
for
so
them?
if they're alone and they're walking and you say, would you rather be Dan Bilzerian or a engineer at JPL? They'll probably say, I want to be social media influencer, right? How many would say, I want to be an engineer at JPL?
Yeah,
or I want to
you're right.
be
I know what you mean.
a surgeon, right?
I know what you mean, yeah.
Probably, or if you ask the girls, you want to be like Kendall Jenner or you want to be a mathematician. Say, what? I want to be Kendall Jenner, right? So this is what we're going towards anyway. So basically, we're all screwed, right? I mean, I guess.
It's unfortunate. I mean, I think our second episode was talking about one of our second episodes that we did with the WiseNuts was weddings. That's what we spoke about. We talked about weddings. We talked about what was going on. And at the time, it's so fascinating. I want to go back and listen to what we spoke
I listened to a portion of it a few weeks ago, and I remember the cost we were discussing back then was like, it cost $70, $80. Now we're talking about $150, $200, $250 a chair.
We only did it to ourselves.
Yeah.
Not only that, but the cost of living has become ridiculous as well.
But if somebody can afford it, that's fine. You know,
that's the key word there, Alan. Afford.
Yeah, I had a very humble man who is worth $4 billion, whose son's wedding. I did his son's wedding. And he pulled me to the side, and we're good friends. And he said, Alan, you know what my problem is? I said, what? He said, if I don't do this and spend $1.5 million, they're going to say, look at this guy, he's so cheap. If I do it, they're going to say, look at this guy, he's showing off.
Yeah. But I've noticed one thing. I've noticed certain people or certain age groups that are getting married a little bit later meaning maybe mid 30s, late 30s, they're doing much smaller weddings with more closer family friends, very intimate. Whereas the younger crowd, the ones that are getting married in their early to mid 20s, those are the ones that are doing you only live once. And then they end up in the 60 percentile.
I'll tell you what the problem is. And this is an advice to all the young brides that want to get married. They're too focused on the wedding and not focused on the marriage. That's the problem.
Repeat that again. I think they need to hear it again.
They are too focused on the wedding, but not focused on the marriage.
Yes.
Well said.
That's the problem. And they're all excited about, their wedding and their dress and this and that. They do 20 photo shoots on the beach and whatever it is. But,
Well,
maybe
you can
things
thank
don't work
social
out.
media for that.
Yeah, it's a competition too right now. I mean, people would spend probably 6-7 hours scrolling to find a photographer, which is good news for our friend JJ. But they'll spend maybe another 5 hours looking at dresses, but they'll spend probably 10 minutes looking for entertainment.
Yeah.
So we are the hardest sell at a wedding.
Really?
The hardest sell we are.
Which is the most important sale.
Well, yeah, alcohol, food,
No,
music.
no,
Yeah, music,
Alan.
alcohol, food is
in
very
my
important.
opinion, it's in this category. Entertainment is number one, food is number two, and then the rest of it you could mix it and match it however you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, run one of the clips with the wedding. You'll see what we're talking about.
What would I do without your smart mouth? Drawing me in and you kicking me out. Got my head spinning, no kidding, I can't pin you down.
Someone to hear my prayer. You make me man after midnight. Want somebody help me chase the shadows away.
Գնացել երբ ես գալու որ նորից իրենք իրար ես ու դու մենակ ես ու դու ես ու դու ես ու դու
I was mine, I was mine.
All right. So
Yeah, like what you hear there is live. It's exactly what you get. There is no computers on stage. The singers are singing. They're not lip singing.
No one lip
and that's-
sings.
Everyone lip sings.
no.
No.
What are you talking about, man?
Stop. Aren't
Nobody
you
lip
Stepan
sings.
Partamian's friend? Come on.
Well,
You want to tell me?
Alan is
about-
going to be biased with this, so I don't want to ask him. I want to ask you, what is the most important thing for a wedding? Would you agree that it's entertainment's number one? I said entertainment, and we want people to comment. You guys in the comments, we want you to give honest comments, please. I said entertainment's number one, food and beverages is number two, and then everything else you could rearrange it however you'd like. If you want beautiful photography, you could do great photography. If you want a different videographer, by all means, florist, all that stuff, you could rearrange it how. But in my opinion, entertainment, food and beverages.
For me, yeah, that would top three would be entertainment, the location, which is the beverage and food, and third is photographer, because ultimately it's also your photos that kind of help you cherish the memories, the videos, and some people can really screw things up. Obviously, for grooms, most grooms, the flowers and all that probably doesn't matter as much or anything else.
Well, nowadays everybody's a photographer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, poor JJ. Sometimes you see him, wanting to just throw his camera on the floor and say, "You know what?
You guys do it.
You guys know better than I do. I'm just here to."
No, plus in my experience, I say photographer is top three as well, is because in my experience, they've always been the ones that have organized the whole thing.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
See, for my wedding, JJ was booked for my wedding, so I didn't have JJ. I had Ray photography, and then I had Colin from Arm Productions do the
This
videography.
is all free advertisement. Huh?
Seriously, bro.
Jeez.
But this is 2012. But anyways, they were the ones that orchestrated my wedding, literally from A to Z. Like, okay, when the guys came over, or prior to the guys coming over, they said, What time are we meeting at the groom's house? What time are we meeting at the bride's house? What time is your church? What time is your banquet hall? Everything else, they set it up for us. I didn't have a wedding planner.
Yeah.
And then when it came time to the banquet hall, you mentioned something about the wedding planner seating people, helping seat
No,
people.
I mean, when you have a wedding, the issue is that the last 3 weeks of the wedding can be very chaotic, right? People cancel or people add on. And sometimes during the ceremony, the walking portion, you need there's going to be chaos. You got to line up people. So yes, it is important to have a planner who's actually there to do their work. I've been to weddings where the planner is supposed to cue the music. Let's say there's a string quartet playing when the bride is walking or somebody's walking, and she's just doing a live Instagram video, and she's not cueing the orchestra, the string quartet, and they're playing Billie Jean for the grandmother.
Nice. That's what grandma wants, right?
I mean,
Not Goliath.
so this is the issue, right? It's basically they have only one shot at showcasing their work, and it's that wedding, so they want to squeeze as much as they can from it. They'll bring a photographer of their own to take pictures of the room and all that. That I am against. Everything else, I'm good for it. If a planner is a good designer, go ahead and hire them. Let them design the room, make it look amazing.
Yeah.
That's it. But use common sense.
I agree.
Joe, do we have any comments or questions before we move on
one
to
of your friends
yeah,
commented.
Saying entertainment.
entertainments for sure?
One of your friends says the other 40 planners are on EDD.
EDD.
Yeah. See, there you
Who's
go.
that guy, man? This is
What was the name? Is
What was
that
the name?
David.
Dave? Yeah.
Davey. David.
I agree.
Yeah.
That guy's all over. He's
Or an Uber driver.
40 of
what?
them are on
An Uber
EDD.
driver.
Uber.
Uber driver.
Uber driver.
But
yeah.
let's dive into the science portion of what you brought up. So Science Geek, tell us a little bit about that. What from an entertainer for weddings and events to Science Geek. What's the Science Geek about? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I have a degree from UCLA, bachelor's degree in molecular biology.
Molecular biology.
Yeah. So I've always been fascinated by, anthropology, paleontology, evolutionary biology, where we come from, how did we end up having this body and this brain?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've spent a lot of time, as he says, talking to ChatGPT also, because I don't have a wife and I don't have kids. So here we go, Arman. That's your answer. So I spend a lot of time discussing scenarios. There's certain things that really interest me. One is intelligence, like how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
The other is cosmic timeline, and I'll talk a little bit about that, which is very fascinating to me. So the one that really I always ask is that if we can go back 200 years, this is the question I always have. What is it that we can say from now that could really change the course of history? That's one of the questions I always had.
Okay.
If we take one person from 2025, taking back 200 years, what can they say to change the course of history? And so that was a question always in my mind.
Why 200 years though?
Well, because they didn't know what germs were. So they didn't know what bacteria was.
So your answer would be
if you got a cold,
antibiotics?
they would sacrifice a goat. That's what they would do.
So is your response antibiotics or what is it?
Well, yeah, you can. I mean, if you go back 200 years, of course, you can change the world. I mean, you can tell them about penicillin, and here you save 500 million people, right there. Because Fleming discovered that in like 1940s, I think. Yeah. So you change the whole world, right? With the knowledge that you have. But what's sad is that the entire knowledge of the world is in your phone, and the young generation, they're not using that. They're not using that. They're using it to look at Dan Bilzerian on a boat with girls.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
That's
I know
what they're
you're
using it for. They're not using it for knowledge, right? And one of the biggest misconceptions also is the difference between intellect and knowledge. So the word genius is being thrown out everywhere, right? This guy's a genius. This guy's a genius. And on YouTube, you will see like these quizzes, right? General quizzes. And it will say, you're a genius if you can answer 9 out of 10 of these questions. What does that mean?
Clickbait.
You're not, no. I mean, what does that mean? You're not a genius if you can answer
It's
9 of those 10.
Alan, it's clickbait.
No, but I mean, I've seen those questions and I've answered 10 out of 10 a lot of times. I mean, they're just simple questions, like whatever. What's the biggest country in the world? Okay, Russia. Very good. You know, what's the largest organ in your body? Okay, good. You answer those. So people think that you're a genius because you can answer those questions. So that's a huge misconception, right? There was a kid in Iran. He was like 6 years old. He could name all the, states, and they would bring him at parties, and the father would be like, "Okay, go ahead. Tell us," and he would stand there and he would say, Massachusetts and this, and everybody would go, wow, this kid's gonna be a genius. He's a genius. Well, you know where that kid is right now? No bullshit. He's delivering food for Panini Cafe.
He never went beyond the 50 states. His knowledge.
No, that's not the point.
He got into an argument with his dad about Puerto Rico.
You're missing the point. You're missing the point. They completely misjudged him because he could memorize something that doesn't mean. But if a kid that can play chess at 5 years old, that's genius.
Yeah.
Right? You know those things, matchsticks. They put like matchsticks and they say remove one match,
Yes.
make the equation. If you can solve that, you're a pretty intelligent person. So people get this thing that they think that knowledge is genius. You know what you have to do to go through medical school? Just have a good memory for the first 2 years. If you have a good memory, you'll probably ace medical school. First year, gross anatomy, this, that, you'll ace it.
I know I've had doctor friends and clients who've talked about going through dental school and medical school. They're like, bro, we use probably 5% of whatever we've learned in school. Everything else is pretty much self-taught and obviously through
Practice,
hands-on
yeah.
experience.
Memorization. Memorization is probably very, very. So people have this misconception that if a kid names 50 states, the kid is a genius. No, if the kid can solve a problem, that kid is pretty much intelligent or maybe at a genius level, especially if he's 6 years old. So I always talk to friends who have, kids. I always say, hey, music is one thing that they should always encourage their kids to go into music. It's a good discipline, right? Things like playing chess, critical thinking, those things are important. You're not memorizing things. I know a lot of useless stuff. A lot. Really a lot. I'm serious. But they're useless, right?
What would be one example of a useless stuff that you know?
Okay.
Because last
I know
time we were
how malaria is, gone through the saliva of a mosquito, and how the male mosquito is reproducing with the female mosquito and then transferring it to.
I was actually going to say, because last time you and I were having a discussion about mosquitoes and the evolution over the last 120 million years.
Yeah,
right?
good. Let's talk about that. Can we talk about mosquitoes?
Well, before you jump into mosquitoes,
it's
going
very
back to the
important.
genius portion of what
Yeah.
you were talking about,
Yeah.
you'll know this better than any of us.
Go ahead.
How old was Mozart when he wrote his first symphony?
9, I think.
That's genius.
Yeah, absolutely. That's genius. 100%. Well, that's genius. Creating something is genius.
Yeah.
So
I mean, maybe on the autism spectrum a little bit, but because at the time people didn't know what autism was. But
But Mozart was like one in like a few 100 million, maybe. But yeah, he was a genius, and so music will do that. And because Mozart didn't have Instagram and he didn't have TikTok, probably that's why he got to write all those symphonies, right? If Mozart had TikTok and Instagram, he'll probably be. Having a cat on a piano, running around and making videos.
His attention span would be 12 seconds.
12
roughly.
seconds, exactly. He couldn't write, Don Giovanni, which is like, you sit through Don Giovanni, it's like, it never ends. It's the longest opera you ever sit through. So my thing is, mosquitoes? Yeah.
Good.
So let me be clear to everyone listening here, because I know a lot about mosquitoes. If you think you can defeat a mosquito, you're not very smart. And I'll tell you why. And this we'll come back to this conversation. We've been around 350,000 years.
The human species.
No, us, yeah. Modern humans.
Okay.
The thinking man.
Okay.
Homo sapiens. 350,000 years versus 120 million years. 120 million years, this mosquito has died, has evolved, died, evolved, been eaten, has evolved. We are helpless against the mosquito. It kills 1 million people a year. 1 million. More than tigers and more than elephants and more than hippos and all that.
And
So-
you mean by kills by transfer of diseases?
Yeah,
That's
this is
why.
vectors.
Okay.
They're vectors for disease.
Because
So-
we have some people watching that might think mosquitoes are
yeah.
going.
So for everyone out there that's watching, next time you see a mosquito, this is the comparison. You are a 4-year-old disabled child on a wheelchair, and the mosquito is Mike Tyson, and you're in a ring with them. That's it. So lighting up a candle on the table is just inviting the mosquito to a Bellagio buffet, basically, which is you. And just the last thing about mosquitoes.
those
only
sprays
only the female mosquito bites, by the way.
Oh, the male doesn't.
No, male.
Really?
Only the females.
How do you know
What if
get
they
our blood.
identify as the other?
Yeah.
Have you checked?
No, we haven't checked, but because they need the protein.
But what if
in
they
our blood for their
what if they
eggs.
identify as the others?
Don't get this guy started on that.
I'm just.
On
What
that.
do you think?
This
I have
guy-
no opinion.
He's already in trouble, man. Facebook has banned him probably like 600 times already. This guy's been more banned than anybody, you know. So we'll close the mosquito conversation here. But this whole thing is because we're helpless against something that's been around for 120 million years.
So those bracelets and those candles that we light up.
No, never, ever.
Eucalyptic oil.
Ever, never, ever. Picaridin, 20%. That's the best defense you have, which is a spray that you buy at.
Or just
Whatever.
put a fan and just.
No, oh yeah, literally heavy fans so they can't fly onto you. But so let's close the mosquito thing. But let's think about this. So the cosmic timeline that I was telling about, which is something that I'm very fascinated about. 4.6 billion years, planet Earth. Imagine you take that and you make it into 1 year. So this is 1 year is 4.6 billion years. You're with me so far? Nothing's happening until like middle of December. Honestly, there's nothing happening.
Oh, I know the answer to that.
These dinosaurs appear on December 24th, during like around Christmas, and they die on December 27th.
Of the last year.
Of the
Of the
that
4.6
1 year. We
billion
get 1
year.
year.
Yeah.
And imagine it's 4.6 billion
Yeah.
years.
Yes.
Dinosaurs appear on Christmas. They go extinct on December 27th.
So 3 days. Okay.
Where do we fit in?
Oh, geez. I'm thinking like
Where are we?
December 31st,
Very good. When?
11:59 p.m.
11:58 p.m.
why though?
Because that's how new we are. We're like brand new. We're like a Samsung TV at Costco. You know?
But do you understand what he's saying?
I know
that the
he's
4.6
talking about to the
billion?
timeline.
Yeah. So we're
It's like there's so much shit that's happened prior to us.
exactly.
So like that's
If all of that happened in a year, we'd be only here for like 2 minutes, basically.
We've been here 2 minutes. So we've been here like 2 minutes. So by the time you got those little balloons during New Year's Eve, think about it. We're at 11:58 p.m. That's when we
the ball's
exist.
basically getting ready to drop, and we show up.
We show up, and the craziest thing is everything from Mozart to Picasso to Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, Camus, and Dostoevsky and Tolstoy, and everything from Tesla to Edison in the last 8 seconds.
Are you fucking serious?
That's really insane. Yeah, I know. That's pretty crazy. In the last 8 seconds. It's only 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Everything. It's 8 seconds.
So what happens past that?
But we're here
Okay,
now.
no,
So
now
that's
it's
what-
January 1st.
Well, that's what we are. That's what we're saying.
That's the
We're
present,
we're
basically.
That's the present. Yeah.
Yeah.
So only 8 seconds. So all those writings, all those symphonies, all those Picasso paintings, Van Gogh, everything. modern civilization, Julius Caesar.
Now that clip of I'm gonna give you the best 8 seconds of your life, I know where it comes from.
Oh yeah, definitely.
from-
That's a lot. That's
Seconds of your life.
From the
it's like me for like
but
10 years, bro. Giving you the best 10 years of your life.
but since you brought up that Earth has been around for 4.6 billion years.
Yeah.
What do you think of all this? These scientists claiming climate change and global warming and all that. What's your opinion on that?
Well, of course, we are affecting the climate. You cannot say that you're driving cars and overpopulating, cutting trees is not going to affect the climate. That's stupid. If you say you don't. But obviously, everything has a way of working out for nature. Nature finds a way. It always has found a way. Always.
But do you think
have you seen the concretes like on the street next to the trees? The root comes out of the concrete.
Correct.
Nature finds a way. So it's not like there will be balance, but yes, we are affecting it. So you can't say you can't affect it. You light a fire, you're affecting somehow.
Yeah,
but
but
it might be very small, the effect, what you're saying.
But to the extent where everything is supposedly about carbon footprint and we're gonna have
melting ice caps.
Yeah, I mean you really don't think that's more of a political agenda versus an actual scientific finding?
It is a political agenda.
Yeah.
It is a political agenda. But it is there. You can't say that you're not influencing nature. We are.
Of course
8
we are,
billion
yeah.
people, factories, there is carbon emissions. You can't say there isn't. You got a diesel truck, you're affecting the environment. Asphalt is
Right.
affecting the environment.
Do you think Earth
Concrete is the second most used thing in the world. First is water. Second is concrete. Well, first is water. Second is concrete. So yes, we make concrete, chemicals, everything. So we are affecting it. Are we that important that we can go against nature and change the course of,
Do you think nature can support more people or
Yeah, I think
Earth?
I think 4.6 billion years it's done
It's done okay for itself.
It's done well without us.
Well, that's what George Carlin used to say. It's like, why are you guys all concerned about it? I mean, it's survived all these years and it's, somehow found the solution to whatever it needs. Why are we so concerned about climate change?
Yeah. The one thing that I learned studying biology is that life finds a way, no matter what. Somehow life finds a way. And you can't really defeat nature, what it is. And second, the earth will somehow balance itself. We're not going to be around forever, of course, right?
Right.
You know that
Yeah.
theory. The sun is going to, expand, and basically we're all going to be gone. We'll be far from,
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
but-
when you talk about global warming, the ice caps are melting. The way you debunk something like that is you show all these so-called climate activists the developments that are going on the East Coast, the billions, if not trillions of dollars that are being dumped into the real estate there, from the hotels to the resorts to the housing that's being built in Miami, in New York, all over the East Coast. You really think that if the ice caps were melting and in 10 years, New York and Florida is going to be underwater, these people would be investing that much money there? Of course they wouldn't. It's
Yeah.
all propaganda.
what did Carlin say? They own you.
Yes, they own you.
They
We're not talking
own
about the
you.
politicians. We're
Yeah.
talking about the guys
Yeah,
above
they-
the politicians. They got the politicians in their back pocket.
Exactly. They
That's
own
what
you.
it is.
I wish he was around.
Us, I'm sorry
Oh
to say
my
this, though.
gosh,
Us
man.
discussing these things, these matters,
Yeah.
I always think of my good friend Kochi Zaduri,
Yeah.
who used to say, do you ever hear frogs talk about the transistors in your phone? So being qualified, I really think, honestly, that we're not qualified. I'll tell you.
Of course
Because
we're
don't
not.
know we're absolutely not qualified
Alan,
to even
this
talk
is-
about these
it's-
things.
But
because-
it's an opinion.
yeah, of course, we're not qualified. The people in the big rooms that make these kind of decisions, they exist. I mean, people have to be very naive, thinking that there is no big guys sitting and making decisions
Right.
when it comes to,
But
everything.
well, at that point, the qualification doesn't matter anymore because, see, it used to matter, but now that everything is bought and paid for, there is no qualification. And that's why guys like us can have an opinion because we understand there's a very simple formula in this world. You follow the money. The money is in climate change. That's what we're talking about. It's in global warming. That's where politics and big guys are going to be having their cigars. In 10, 15, 20 years from now, it could be something else.
Well, now it's in war. It's back into war again.
Well,
Pharmaceuticals in 2020, it was in pharmaceuticals.
yeah, but my point is the qualification doesn't matter. I mean, how many people during the pandemic actually had meetings with qualified virologists and immunologists to determine what's the proper way to handle a pandemic?
None
Nobody
of them
did.
bro.
Nobody did. Who did they talk to? The Faucis of the world met with the politicians of the world and the global elites of the world and decided that the solution is going to be A, B, and C. They never had to sit down with actual qualified scientists to determine what is the purpose of a quarantine, how do you quarantine people, and then what type of um, prophylactics or whatever it's going to
But they were
take.
telling people to stay 6 feet apart. People were going into restaurants and putting masks on.
Yeah, that was
well.
kinda
Yeah, you could take your mask off and you could sit down and have a meal. But when you got to go to the bathroom, you got to put your mask back on and walk over to the bathroom because God forbid you walking that distance might kill the person
Bro.
right next to you.
Speaking of masks, yesterday at the comedy show,
Was there people wearing masks?
there were some people wearing some staff wearing masks and maybe not any of the attendees, the guests, but every time I would see one of the attendees, especially if they're wearing a mask, I'm like, they're like, where's your ticket? I'm like, I'm in the vax injured section. They're like, the where section? I'm like,
It's a troll.
the vax
Oh, yeah.
injured. They're like, oh, the disabled section. I'm like, I don't know if that's where it is. Then yeah, I guess that's where you should take me. Like at least 5 different these attendees, I kept on saying that, and my wife's like, dude, you're gonna get us kicked out. I'm like, don't worry, we were fine. We're at a comedy show. I mean, I'm just being cute and funny. Like nobody's gonna kick me out of a comedy show. For
And again, we go back to my favorite thing, the mosquito.
You really have an attached affinity
Yes.
to it.
I'll tell you one thing. Viruses have been around forever, right? They're smart. They're very smart,
Right.
right? So they're single-celled organisms.
Correct.
They've been around forever. You know what else is smart? Mold. You know what a mold is?
Mm-hmm.
It's bacteria.
Yeah, it's single-cell.
Correct.
So they're from the kingdom Protista and whatever. So there's a slime mold. It's called a slime mold.
Uh-huh.
So Paul Stamets also talked about this. He's a mycologist. He studies, mushrooms, and he talked about this on Rogan one time as well. And I read this study. So this thing is very smart. It's a single cell. It does not have a brain. It does not have a brain. So, when you make fun of people who don't have intellect, be careful. This thing does not have a brain, but it's smarter than all of us. Seriously, it is. So what they did is they create a maze, let's say, like a roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
And this slime mold, they would put a grain on the end of the maze. This mold will find the shortest distance to get to that grain without any question. Like it will find the puzzle, solve the puzzle. So the Japanese scientists, of course, leave it to the Japanese geniuses. They took the subway system of Tokyo, right?
Oh, wow.
Check this out. So they put a film, kind of where the mold can grow,
Mm-hmm.
and they put the little grains where the main stations would be
Yeah.
of the Japan's metro subway system. In 28 hours, the slime mold replicated the Japanese Tokyo subway system almost identical to the ones the engineers built. Identical. They found the shortest way, and some they even redesigned it better than their engineers. And this thing does not have a brain. And Arman, do you have a brain? So
I don't know if everybody would agree with that, but
this is a mold.
so how
So
did
now,
it do,
how are you
how does
going
it
to
do
defeat a
that?
virus by, I don't know, wearing a mask and stay 6 foot away? You will somehow maybe interfere with, but this thing does not have a brain, and it redesigned the Japanese Tokyo subway
Yeah,
system
and it's not even like a,
better than an engineer.
and it's not even like a symbiote where it needs a host in order to survive.
All they did, they put some
just-
grains, like little oatmeals in the stations, and this thing went in 28 hours, came back, grew, went back, and then it redesigned the entire subway system, Japanese subway system. So this is what I'm trying to tell, people when we talk about mosquitoes again. You can't defeat these things, if you think you're, and we can get to our next subject, which is why is everybody like has anxiety and all that, especially in our culture now. It all relates to that, right? And I wrote something that I shared with a few people at my workplace, which I'll give a shout out to. My friend LG, she knows who she is. So, like the philosophers you look at, right, in the past 400 or 500 years, they all say the same thing. I'm serious. If you read one, you read all of them.
Yeah.
If Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, and Camus, and Cioran, and those guys, their message is what? Life is tragic. Life is absurd. Why do we live? Why do we exist? It's the same thing. So if you read one, you read all of them. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason why we have all these questions is because we are not compatible. Our hardware is not compatible with the software. The hardware is an ancient hardware from 350,000 years ago, just us. And then when we go back to, let's say, Homo erectus and then, habilis and those guys, well, we're going back 1.2 million years. 1.2 million years of hardware, which is stay in the caves, protect yourself, gather food, high-calorie food, eat high-calorie food so you can maintain your
Mass,
strength
yeah.
and fight. And then our brain grows and we become intelligent. And then we get out of the caves and whatever, and we start civilization. The hardware is not compatible with the software. It really isn't. And this is why there's all this depression, and this is why there's all this anxiety, because the software is not working with the hardware. Your hardware wants to do completely primal things that's used to doing throughout millions of years. Then, about 5,000 years ago, religion was introduced, the Abrahamic religions. The religion tried to do a software update. That's what he did. Religion was a software update. It failed miserably because we still have crime, anxiety, rape, murder, greed. It failed because, again, the hardware wins. The hardware always wins. The software doesn't win. So all these, when your kid was born in the hospital, did they give you an owner's manual?
I think it was a PDF file they
PDF
emailed
file,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, it was on a Google Drive.
You have children too, right?
Of course.
They never gave you an owner's manual, right?
No.
When your kid was born.
Of course not.
If you buy a vacuum cleaner from Costco, there's an owner's manual, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which we never read though. But
Yeah, if you're a stubborn Armenian, you're going to turn around and say, I know. how to-"
I know everything. Or IKEA, you buy a desk, there's an owner's manual to assemble a desk. There is no owner's manual for us. And we are the most complex machine. The most complex machine ever recorded in the universe is our brain. Of some of our brains. Some of Arman's friends, I don't know about. No, I met a few of them over there.
I'm not going to say anything.
No, but the most complex machine is us. We come with zero owner's manual. or instructions. Basically, you just have to rely on experience, exploration, trial and error. That's what you got to rely on.
So let me ask you this question, because this is going to be a very deep conversation to get into. I'm assuming you're an atheist. You're not a religious person.
I'll give you an answer right now. I don't know for certain if there is a God. I do not know for certain if there is no God.
Do you believe
Hold
that
on.
we came from Adam and Eve?
Hold
Let me
on.
ask you that.
Hold on. But I know for certain it's not what they're telling us it is. That's my answer. I don't know for certain if there is a God. I don't know for certain if there is no God. But I know for certain it's not what they're telling us it is.
How are you so certain about that?
Because there's 3,000 of them. There's 3,000 of them. Hindu, this. There's everywhere, right?
there
Which
isn't.
one to believe? They're
No.
either all correct or they're either wrong.
We have
So
a
that's
God.
something that I struggle with, because sometimes some things happen in your life and you think, wow, what happened? You know, there might be some kind of divine
So
intervention.
you don't believe that we came from Adam and Eve?
Come on, Arnold. You want me to leave?
No, I'm serious.
You're not serious, right?
No, I'm dead serious.
No, I mean, it's joking.
You believe we came
must
from
be joking.
evolution?
What do you mean?
Like
Of
we
course
evolved from a monkey.
No, we didn't evolve from
Where
monkey.
did
We
we evolve
share a common
So
ancestor.
okay,
with
where did that
monkeys.
come from?
From a single cell organism.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. When a child is born and you leave a child out and about,
Mhm.
will that child survive or will it die?
Die.
But if a deer is born or a wolf is born or a frog is born, a tadpole is born from a frog, will it survive?
Yes.
Why can't
Most
the human
likely.
survive?
Because we're very reliant on nurture.
So
for the
when
first,
did it-
for the
so
first
when did it
7
begin?
years, 6 to 7 years of our life.
Okay, so when did humanity begin then? From a single cell organism, what did we
Oh, you're
evolve
talking
from?
about from the beginning. Well, the theory that is accepted by almost everyone with no questions asked is that there is. Well, let's go back.
No.
Well,
I'm curious
getting there.
about.
I'm getting there. So you don't know about the Miller-Urey experiment, right? So the Miller-Urey experiment was, they won the Nobel Prize in the 60s for this. Is what they recreated what the Earth would have been about like 3 billion years ago
Okay.
in a flask. And they put exactly the gases and the liquids, methane and all that in there. And they observed that molecules appeared out of nowhere.
Okay.
So they won the Nobel Prize for it, and they replicated this in Switzerland, Japan, and everywhere else. The Miller-Urey experiment was replicated everywhere. And it proved that, yes, you could have complex amino acids or monomers from basically just the basic elements that was our primordial soup, we call it, on the planet. So those amino acids did come out. So the theory is we all come from cyanobacteria, which later on becomes part of the cell, which is mitochondria, which produces ATP and all the energy. So that's there.
The
you know?
theories. Keyword
Yeah,
there.
I mean, that's been proven. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Now, I think a lot of the questions that you have, like the deists would say, you know, we believe there was a God that created everything, but he doesn't interfere anymore with anything. You know what I mean? He doesn't interfere with anything.
Look, I'm not the most religious person in the
Yeah.
world, but I wholeheartedly do believe that God created everything we have around us.
So you're a creationist. Yeah, like a watchmaker.
I wouldn't say create. I consider myself a Christian. That's what
a
I
Christian.
consider
Yeah.
myself.
So you believe something was created.
God created
Yeah.
everything around
So,
us. He created
yeah,
man.
that's a huge debate, right? I mean, the atheists and the religious people, their arguments are always the same, right? The atheists say things like, you know, everything we needed was here without needing your explanation, you know, of the creationists. And the creationists would say, well, how come there's, you know, you have free will and you have this, you know, morality comes from God.
That all
So
comes
this
from
argument has been-
because it all comes from the
this-
Bible.
So this argument has been around for forever, right? For ages. Now, I'm not really an expert on that, I'll tell you.
Well, none of us are experts, Alan,
No,
remember.
none of us. I mean, I'm not really an expert on theology and but what I know is that the Darwinian evolution is a fact. There's no way you can say that there's archaeological records. It's there, you can dig it up. It's always been
I
there.
know,
Dinosaurs have existed.
Yeah,
right?
Darwin
I mean,
evolution is the evolution of man from what the Homo
exactly.
sapien became. Correct.
Yeah. Maybe you're saying when man becomes man, the soul is where God intervened and made you a man, or gave you a soul, let's say, for you to become a thinking
No, I
man.
truly think Adam and Eve started humanity.
That is wrong. I mean, that's been proven wrong everywhere.
To who?
I mean, if you go back and look at scientific evidence proves that we evolved.
So
from
Noah's Ark never took place. Adam and Eve never took place.
Well, Adam and Eve, I don't know if maybe there were two people named Adam and Eve at
do you
some
believe?
time in
Do you
Jericho.
believe? Do you believe that Jesus Christ came down?
I know that there was a person named Jesus for
Yeshua.
sure living in that time, during that time. But I don't know whether people mistranslated what he said, or even people wrote. If three of us would say something, right, by the time it gets out on the street, things change constantly. Like people change words, so nobody knows, right? Because it's so ancient, right?
I
It's
understand.
like 5,000 years old, right? These things.
And evolution is how old?
pretty old.
So how do we know so much about evolution yet from 5,000 years ago? We don't have so much information. Yet you're able to duplicate with that
Oh,
experiment.
well, because we just look at bones. We look at bones and we look at DNA, right? But what evolution knows is basically collecting evidence like bones and dating the bones, seeing how old they are. So if you find a bone that's 1.2 million years old, you know that bone.
How do you date a bone that's 1.2 million years
There's
old?
carbon dating, and there's lead dating, and there's radioactive isotopes that decay during time, and that's how they do it. It's a perfect science. That one is crime scenes. They use that too. Crime scenes when they dig up a body from, let's say, 22 years ago. They can tell you exactly because of the carbon decay. It has carbon-14 has a decay lifespan. So they calculate that and they know how old it was. So that's a proven science. Now, evolution, it's a very controversial topic, but there's a lot of Christian scientists. You know that, right? Like Watson is one of them. That's like, he says, he's a true biologist, but he says, there had to be a hand of God somewhere. He says there had to be a hand of God somewhere at that time. So he's very controversial. I mean, he's had arguments with other biologists, and like Richard Dawkins, who's a true evolutionary biologist, but he's also very big.
And again,
atheist,
I say this because again, I'm not the most religious person in the world, and I mean the guys. I would say the same for the guys as well. But there are times where you kind of sit back and you realize things happen for a reason, and God has literally drawn out a path for you and given you hurdles and obstacles to go through. Me personally, me personally, I'd rather be a believer in God, and when the time comes where we're all gone and Judgment Day is here, for me to know that, all right, you know what? I was a believer, and when I do go to the kingdom of heaven, he knows that I was a believer, rather than me say he doesn't exist, and when he does exist and we're all there in the kingdom of heaven, he says, you were a non-believer of mine, and me regret it.
Well, that's one answer we'll never know until we're dead, right? 100%.
That's hence the reason why I say I'd rather be a believer rather than a non-believer and regret it later.
Yeah, there's a theory like that, right? Who wrote that? It was,
I forgot who it was.
It was like Martin something. Right? He would say, if I believe in God, then I go, then I'll go to heaven.
I'd rather believe in him now than regret it later.
Yeah. But then again, you're believing in not really believing, right? You're trying to con God, like you're trying to pull a fast
No,
one
not
on
necessarily.
God,
I
you know?
truly do.
Right?
Pull a
You're
fast-
trying to pull a fast
Look,
one.
I truly do believe that.
Because if he's that smart, then he's
No.
gonna know
I
that you're
truly
pulling
do
it.
believe
Yeah.
he's watching every single moment that's taking place, and he's drawn out a path for us. When in Armenian, when they say "chakatagir," which is your fate,
Yeah.
the fate that he's drawn out for
Destiny,
you,
huh?
or destiny, your destiny's already written out. When you're born, what you'll go through, and when you'll be buried 6 feet under.
Would you want to have access to that destiny manual? No.
Never. I would never want. Would you want to know when you're going?
Yeah, I want to know. Hell,
You wanna
I'll
know?
I'll hit the casinos in a second. You know, I'll hit the casinos and Chase Bank.
You say
Can
that.
kiss
though.
my
You say that comfortably, though.
Yeah, 100%.
But
I
see,
would love to know.
No, I would never.
Absolutely, I would love to know.
Okay, so let me ask
The
you this:
date.
You're
Exactly.
you're how old now, Alan?
51.
51.
Yeah.
So, Himasem will be, God forbid.
Go ahead. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of death.
Let's say if,
Especially if I'm going where Arno says it's a
if
nice
the
place.
if the manual,
Hell yeah.
if according to your destiny manual, the date was, let's say, it's in a week. What would you do in the last week of your life? Because you're like, I'll go gambling, I'll hit the banks, this, that.
Well,
I
I'd
mean-
probably spend it with my mother and father and my sister and my family because that's the most important thing that I have. But I mean, if it was longer,
a year.
I'll be like, hey, Mom, I'll see you.
You have a year.
Oh, if 1 year
Yeah.
to the end? A lot of Joshua Tree camping, you know, definitely to look at the stars.
And you would
Smoke my
want to. And you
cigars.
would want to know.
Oh, definitely I'll try drugs. I haven't done drugs. I haven't done drugs yet. I told Arman that.
Yeah.
I haven't done drugs. I'll definitely do like mushroom like crazy, right? I mean, I want to try it one time too. 'cause I
Mushrooms?
yeah.
But why do you
I
have to
haven't
know
done
your
I would do it.
end
And I
date?
don't drink alcohol either. So, but I would go all out.
So if you're in hospice, and they give you,
Armand is
and they give you,
Doesn't Armand
and they
own a
say you have-
hospice? Armand, don't you
and
own
they
a
say,
hospice?
you know what, Alan, you got 4 more months to go. You know, Armand, bring in the mushrooms,
Mushrooms, alcohol,
bring in the
kubide.
cocaine.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well, right? OPM and everything else. If you got a year to go. You know, one thing I at UCLA, I used to work as a volunteer at the Boyer Clinic, and it was a cancer clinic, and there was a lot of patients that were dying, and this was a tough thing, you know, to see when you're looking at, you know, you go into these rooms and you see these people, and a lot of high caliber people were there too, like, I mean, CEOs of huge companies. Let's say this guy is worth billions of dollars, but he's not going to be one of those CEOs of a very big company. I befriended him. I'm not going to tell you the name of his company because his family might be watching. I don't know. They don't watch WiseNuts today. But he told
tell
me
him
my
to
dream is to play golf one more time and to look at the sunset.
Uh-huh.
And this guy built an empire. So it really affected me, you know, during those times when I saw those patients, you know, the last days that they had. And then I told one of the doctors, I remember, I said, you know what? If I ever get cancer, I want to go travel the world and whatever, and just drink and just die. And he said, Alan, everybody says that. But the day I sit in front of you and in front of any patient and I say, this is what we found, this is what's wrong with you, they turn around and they say, please do whatever you can. I'll do anything to make me better. That was a big lesson I learned.
And you know,
Like I was totally talking out of my ass.
see, Alan,
you know?
it's funny you say that because a lot of people who don't believe in a God, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, doesn't matter. You don't believe in a God. You're an atheist, right? In very, very difficult times, hard times, you know what a lot of people say? God, please help
Yeah,
me.
God, please help me.
Why?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't met atheists who are dying yet, but
Have there ever been
that'd be a good
have there
question.
ever been times, for example, where something has taken place and you've said, "Oh my God"?
Yeah.
Why?
Many times.
But who is your God then?
Yeah, so that's the question, right? I always said there's like 3,000 of them. Which one is the correct one? But what if I'm wrong? Picking the wrong
See,
one. You know?
we've had
It's like,
so many religious figures on the show where, and one of them very pretty much kind of said something that resonated with me because I went into the Quran and
Yeah.
I kind of did some research about the Quran, and it said that in the Quran, for example, when you're a Muslim, right? A Muslim will respect any person who believes in a God, one God.
yeah,
Whether you're Jew, whether you're Christian, whether you're Muslim, as long as it's a God, one person, one God. And I truly do believe when you look at all these religions, whether you're a Buddhist, a Muslim, a Jew, a Christian, that God is the same person, is that one person. Because all these, and I don't want to say stories, but all these religious figures, they all point to that one person up there, that one Almighty, where nobody knows who it is, what type of energy it is. And again, this is me saying it as a person who is not a very religious person. I'm just saying that there is something up there. There is someone who has created all of this.
yeah.
man.
When you look up at the stars, it's somehow you do have that feeling, you know, that majestic feeling, like when you look up the stars and you kind of think about it. But then when you look at the evidence of, you know, how things were created, there's an explanation for a lot of things.
Like, do you believe in the
And
moon
then-
landing?
Yeah.
You would think we went to the moon?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Why haven't we gone back since?
I think we have.
Have we?
Yeah. I
Are you
think
sure?
there's-
So
yeah.
you think Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the
Buzz
moon?
Aldrin actually is a friend of my brother-in-law.
So he landed on the moon.
Have you asked him?
No,
You should
I
ask
never
Buzz.
did, but I'm sure.
We should maybe have Buzz
But-
join us.
Yeah.
Do you really
I think my
believe we
mom
landed
made,
on the
my
moon?
mom made Carmi Pluff for him, or like, no, like I'm not kidding, like seriously, no, seriously.
So you believe we
seriously,
landed
yeah.
on the moon?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. I mean, unless it was a huge,
So as a
Cover-up.
science geek,
yeah.
you self-proclaimed science geek, have you ever read about kind of the chemistry of the moon, the radiation on the moon?
Yeah, a little bit about the soil.
Bro, the radiation outside of our atmosphere. What are you talking about?
And whether or not we could even survive with the COVID-19 hazmat suit that they wear.
COVID-19.
No,
He
no.
goes back to
Well,
COVID-19
I mean,
like it's the plague.
I understand their suit is a little bit
Spanish
more,
flu. Imagine if he
a
was
little bit
alive
more
during the Spanish
durable.
flu. He'd be the only guy, you know. Like,
Alan, that's
I'm gonna-
racist.
I'm
You
gonna
can't call
drink-
it the Spanish flu.
No,
What if it was?
I'm gonna drink the water. Cholera, malera, my ass. I'm gonna drink the water. He'll be the only one. I'll tell you. No, seriously. You want to know an interesting fact?
Sure.
What's the most abundant element on the moon?
What is it?
Come on, you'll be surprised.
Oxygen.
Very good. Since it's, yeah,
Oxygen is the most abundant element on the moon.
Yes,
So does
Because of the soil.
does the moon have gravity?
it's less than
Less
us.
than that, right?
So you'll weigh a lot less.
You'll weigh a lot less.
I
So
think
you've seen videos of the moon landing, right?
Yeah,
So who was the first person on the
I don't know where he's going with
So
this.
who's the
man.
first-
He's
who's-
setting me up. I think.
No, who was the first person
I
on
think he's
who was the
setting me up.
first
it's
with
just
Adam and
no,
Eve?
no,
I
no,
think
no.
he set
No,
me
no.
up.
Who was the
too.
first person that landed on the moon?
I think you guys are gonna have a
No, no,
meeting
no.
afterwards
No,
over
no,
there.
no.
Like,
Who was
bro,
the-
we got him so
No,
good
no,
with
no,
that
no.
Adam and Eve. Because
Who was the first person
listen,
that
I
landed on
didn't
walked
trust
on the
him,
moon?
but now I don't trust him.
No. Who was the first person that walked on the moon?
I think Neil Armstrong.
And we have footage of it, right?
yeah.
So who walked down to put the camera up?
I think it was an on-shoot location.
Oh, was it
On-
really?
on-
Interesting.
yeah,
And we had
yeah.
footage of the rocket ship with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin take off, right? So did they leave the cameraman back on the moon?
I think it was on a tripod or something.
Oh, was it on a
No,
tripod?
they edited it afterwards. There were multiple cameramen. One guy stayed down, and then one went up.
The best part of
And
this is
one had
No, I
gone
think we-
before
here's,
them.
here's the most what year did we land? Yeah.
It
What
was
year did we
60
land on the moon?
something.
What year was it?
60.
68 or
68,
69.
Okay, in
somewhere around
68,
there.
69. From the moon,
Yeah.
we televised it to our television
Yeah,
sets,
and
right?
then my Verizon phone doesn't work on the 134 near Forest Lawn.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I
Yet
know
you
where
go to
you're
the
going with
bank
this.
and there's
It's
a
like-
bank robbery going on. It's
yeah.
fucking pixelated.
Yeah, he does. It does.
But yet, the other day, they were showing an image of like 2 trillion light years away, like clear as anything. I mean,
Hey,
you're
I
like,
thought WiseNuts, he was the conspiracy theorist. I was almost, my hats off to you. This
Apology
guy is
accepted.
worse.
Hey, listen,
This guy-
don't get me started on
We
flat
went
Earth.
from Adam and Eve to
Don't
Buzz
get me
Aldrin.
don't get me
You know?
started on flat Earth.
You know? Oh, flat Earth. Oh, come on. You know, the South Pole is, you know.
No. I mean, look, I'm not saying the Earth is flat. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
I'm not
thank
saying
God.
that. I'm not saying the Earth is flat. I'm just saying there's certain questions that I have.
Hey, listen, I only have like maybe 200 fans in the world. After coming to the show, I think I'm going to have like
You're going to be on
23.
EDD.
EDD, 23.
People are gonna think we're
I'm
crazy.
going to say,
But you know what's more fascinating to me than what's up there?
Yeah.
What's down there in the ocean?
yeah,
Because
well,
we've
we
only
don't know.
discovered, I think, what, 5% of the ocean or 10% of the
Yeah.
ocean,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So what's down
Have
there?
you seen that weird creature with the little
Absolutely.
thing coming out
And
of his
have you
head?
seen how large that fish is?
Yeah.
It's when I first saw it, I think who was the guest on our show that we talked to? I forgot who it was.
Girl.
But we talked about that fish. And I originally thought you've seen them in like cartoons and movies and stuff. You think it's like this big, right? That fish with that light bulb
Yeah.
is bigger than this
Yeah,
table.
That's pretty insane.
That's insane.
Yeah. I've seen more. There's this guy I follow on Instagram because he talks about animals and he's very smart. He tells you some of the crabs he was showing the other day.
They're massive.
Yeah, they're massive. They're the size
massive.
of like a Fiat, you know, the car. We're helpless against nature.
Because
right?
I mean the pressure down there, especially in the Pacific, I mean, well, in the Atlantic, see now you see we're gonna talk about the Atlantic. It takes me to Titanic. How the Titanic never sailed.
Another conspiracy.
100%.
Is it?
100%. You believe the Titanic sank?
I don't know. It's down there still, I think.
Where's the back of the Titanic? Where it says Titanic.
Let's ask James Cameron.
James Cameron. Nobody. The back of the Titanic has never been found.
I bet you he loves Joe Rogan.
I think.
And he loves those guys that come, they talk about ancient pyramids, right? You love
Ancient
that.
pyramids.
Yeah? You love that ancient
Look,
pyramid.
the only reason why I say the Titanic is because we've discovered the front of the Titanic, right? The front, the is it the bow or the bow's in the back?
I
Where
don't
Leo
remember.
DiCaprio
I don't remember
was-
Yeah,
the
where Leo and
names.
Rose.
Yeah,
were-
yeah.
The front is there, but the rear of the Titanic is not underneath the. We can't find it. Where is it? And the rear is what sank last. The front went down first.
So what is the front part?
Well, the Titanic never sank. It was the Olympic that sank.
Oh, so it's another ship that sank.
Yeah, because J.P. Morgan set up certain
Hey, listen,
individuals
at this
to.
point, honestly, at this point, I believe almost anything. No, seriously.
Yeah.
Like I'm at a point where there's so many things that don't make sense.
Well, it's not-
So
it was-
I do believe some things.
Well, it
Like,
was
it's
very
not being a
convenient that.
conspiracy theorist, but there are certain things that I do believe.
Well, you know the story of the Titanic, right? What it was, though, right? It was with J.P. Morgan and certain
Yeah.
elites where they invited people over to the United States to discuss the Federal Reserve.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, the Titanic goes belly under. And conveniently enough, on Christmas Day, the Federal Reserve is founded.
So every day when I
Alan's like, what the
wake
fuck
up,
did
no,
I get
no, no,
myself
no, no,
into?
no, no. Every day when I wake up, I say, let's see what the globalists. No, let's say every day when I wake up, I'm like, let's see what the globalists have planned for us today. Right? That's what you think
Not
too.
necessarily. You know what it is? It's always questioning certain things.
I went to California Chicken Cafe yesterday. They don't take cash.
Why?
I was staying at the Marriott.
Cashless society?
Yeah, I went to the Marriott. We had a wedding playing at the Marriott, and it was like in San Diego or somewhere. I went to the gift shop, got a few things. We don't accept cash. Come on, Arnold, enlighten us about that.
Are you not concerned about that? A cashless society? It's happening in China, a credit system. Where you
Yeah,
where you jaywalk across the street, boom, some credits are taken away. You
So in
bring-
Glendale, basically, everybody would be no more
Well-
G-Wagons. Every,
Social credit is taken
social
away.
credits.
Social, not your actual FICO.
Not your
social
actual, yeah, social credits.
yeah.
Look, a cashless society is a very dangerous society because, I mean, at the end of the day, our cash used to be backed by something, right? What was it backed by? By gold.
Gold.
Right now, it's not backed by anything. It's just a piece of paper.
So your concern is that it's not backed by anything, or your concern is that they can monitor you?
They could, well, that's what it eventually leads to.
So
That's why we tell people buy gold and just put it aside, because gold at the end of the day, regardless of what type of currency that will eventually entail itself and become the currency of whether it's the world or the United States, you have gold to back it up. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Okay,
This is
how
just
much
certain questions.
How
that-
much gold can you buy to
God is
back
not
yourself up?
No, you buy as much as you can.
How much?
I mean, buy some gold and throw it in
Let's
a
say
savings
if shit
deposit
hits the
box.
fan, how much gold is gonna?
I don't know, bro. You're asking me a question where.
$500,000
Well,
worth of
according to
gold
your
is
logic,
gonna.
they might devalue gold.
Well, let me put it to you this
They
way:
might devalue
would you
gold.
rather have $500,000 in cash asset or $500,000 in
At that
gold?
point, I don't want anything, because if it's to that point where the dollar has no value and shit's hit the fan, you just better have some guns on you.
Well, the guns are different.
I mean, people
you
are
just got
gonna-
Joe excited for a
No,
second.
no. You just climaxed over there. No, I mean, you're gonna have people showing up your door to take your gold away if the gold has any value at that point. What are you gonna do with the gold?
I understand.
Plus the weight of the gold, you're gonna put it in your Prius and drive it off in your electric car.
I don't think Arno drives a Prius.
no.
I saw this Rolls Royce here downstairs. Right? The Phantom, is that yours?
Yeah, absolutely. No. Mine was a
That's
Spectre.
that's his assistant.
That's my daily. That's my daily. The Spectre's at home charging.
What is a Spectre?
I don't know,
It's
bro.
the electric
Rolls
Rolls-Royce.
Royce.
It is? There's an electric Rolls Royce?
Yeah, it's at home charging. The
No,
battery
but
was
no,
low.
honest question. What would you do with the?
Look,
You-
I'm not. Again, I'm not. This is me talking out loud. I'm not saying that. And again, God forbid something like this does take place. But what I'm saying is, gold always appreciates in value. Yeah, it does come down every now and then. But
Sure.
for example, it's FDIC insurance, right? Where they say $250,000 of it is the
Right.
only thing that's protected. God forbid, again, we get to the point where a bank collapses,
Mhm.
like, and you lose the money. But what I'm saying is, if you have
Well,
assets,
So FDIC does not have $250,000.
they don't even have that to
for
protect you.
every
Exactly.
client. They
Exactly.
have a few cents to the dollar.
So that's why I tell people, instead of having cash in the bank, if you're not going to be using that money, literally buy gold, put it in a safety deposit box.
Sure.
And if you ever need to have cash on hand, that's as good as cash. Again, this is me. I'm not saying that tomorrow, all of a sudden, the banks are going to collapse and the world's going to end, and you got to take your gold like Alibaba and put it in a freaking
no,
sack.
no,
and
you're not
get
saying
on
it's
your
going to happen
camel and-
tomorrow, but
and
you're
ride
saying
off into the
if
sights
it
that-
happens.
What
And
I'm
my
saying
thing
is,
is-
your money in the bank is worthless.
No, don't. It's not about money in the bank. It's about your money should be making money for you. It should never be in the bank. But
Yes.
my point is, if it gets to that point, you don't need anything. You just need to survive at that
Yeah,
point.
you need your AR-15s,
You need
your
to
Glocks,
survive.
your I get it.
You're not going to carry half a ton of gold and put it in your car, take your family, and that's not.
I don't think we'll
happening.
ever see that. I don't think in our lifetime we'll ever
I
see
hope
anything
not,
like
but
that.
I'm saying that's why I don't stress about that, because I know if anything gets to that point, I mean, look at again the pandemic. Look at what was happening with toilet paper and paper towels and lavash. People were fighting each other over, and that was nothing. Imagine if something really happens. We're not prepared
I
for
think
it.
Arno is missing a very big point. There's much bigger problems than getting there, right? Societies as a whole is becoming more, going towards superficial things and things that don't matter. And in 20 years from now, we're probably not going to have any more engineers.
Oh, I
Because
agree.
no
I
kid
agree.
wants to be an engineer.
I agree.
It's not cool, right? They want to be Kendall Jenner. They want
I
to be
agree.
like Lamar Jackson or whatever.
I
They
think
don't want to be educated at all.
certain things
they
will
want-
be replaced by
Yeah.
AI.
So it will be replaced by AI. So the problem is, first of all, anxiety. Anxiety levels are right
Through the roof.
They're through the roof. One thing that I was going to tell you about, we're discussing about, there's no instruction manual on how to raise a child, and they have to learn by mistake and all that, right? So all these self-help books, right? In 2024, there were 15,000 books published. 15,000.
Another thing, by the way, as you know, George Carlin talked about 25 years
self-help,
ago.
yeah. So the self-help books, the people that buy these self-help books, they really think that they can change.
No way.
If self-help books worked, today probably the CEO of Pfizer is sitting on a yacht in south of France with 3 supermodels in a jacuzzi. Because people are popping Xanax and Zoloft and Lexapro like it's Pez. That's why. You think the self-help books will work? No. The anxiety levels are so high. I have a friend who's a plastic surgeon, says 14-year-old girls are calling the office wanting surgeries. 14 years old. I mean, how did we get here, right? How did we get here? 14-year-old girls wants to do surgery. And he said, I can't even talk to you. What are you talking about? We can't even have this conversation. They have to be transferred with some excuse. I want to look prettier. I want to do this and whatever. So where do you think we're going with this, right? No self-help book is going to help. It's going to be, they're going to learn by exploration, learning from the parents, good role models. There is no good role models anymore, right? Before we had some role models when we grew up, for us. Muhammad Ali, he was a role model for us, right? Like he would go and help the poor and,
You don't think
help,
you think we
go
don't
to
have
Africa, help, people. We don't have that anymore. I don't think we have any role
I don't
models
think
for the
it's
young generation.
I don't think we're lacking role models. I just think the young generation is identifying the wrong people as role models.
Influencers.
Yeah, we don't have Muhammad Ali's anymore. We don't have Pelez. We don't have Michael Jordans or whoever else the role models were. Of course we do. We still have amazing athletes who do a lot of great work for their communities. We have amazing scientists, artists, musicians. They're all over the place, but it's no longer sexy to
yeah.
to look at them as role models. It's sexy to look at the OnlyFans girl who made $53 million in a year, and it takes, for example, as you mentioned, probably Jamie Dimon doesn't he make $53 million a year, and he runs the largest bank in the world. So that's the issue. The role models are no longer.
So it's like, what's the motivation, right?
Yeah,
It's like, what's the motivation to actually do something, to go to, let's say, school and to study and to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a rare breed of kids that I have met. This 19-year-old kid who's so like focused. I talked to the guy. The new craze now that I see in the younger generation, it's sports betting. It's huge. That's all they talk about.
sports betting, huh?
Sports
Really?
betting.
Really?
16, 17, they all talk about sports betting. I mean, that's their entire life. Before it was Bitcoin and
Yes.
crypto, and then from crypto it went to sports betting. Now it's like I bet you go into any high school or any junior high school, on a Monday, all they're discussing is the scores, what was the over, what was the under, who won. That's all they're doing. It's become like this pandemic of education is not cool. Girls don't want you because you're smart. They want you because you are wealthy. You can flash your, Rolex, and you can flash your, this is what has become. So what's going to happen? We didn't have those things when we grew up, right? And like when we were in high school, now we sound like old farts.
Well, it wasn't
And we
as
didn't have
easy.
those
It
things.
wasn't portrayed so freely and openly, Alan. That's the difference. Right now, everything is at the tip of your fingers. All these people are living these lavish lifestyles, these bullshit lifestyles. And what are a lot of people doing? Sitting at a desk, and we've talked about this in the past, sitting at a desk, sitting at a cubicle, sitting at an office, and doom scrolling, looking at these fake influencers, living this fake life.
Yeah.
And that's where the anxiety comes in, the depression comes in, where they say, shit, I want to be at Mastro's at 2 p.m. having a steak in Malibu. Or I want to be at Nobu at night with this beautiful young girl having 500, $600,000 worth of sushi and sake and drinks and blah 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 blah. But who are the people actually portraying this? Are they really influencers? Of course they're not. It's a fake lifestyle.
I know they rent a Lamborghini and they
You
do
see it. You see it more than we do. People are renting houses that they don't live in and inviting people over to show the bride coming down the stairs. Oh,
I didn't
look!
know that. That's a good business, actually. Maybe I should get in. That's a good business.
Could you believe that?
No, I didn't know that. I really didn't.
You really didn't?
You didn't
No,
know?
you taught me
Yes.
something today.
People are renting homes.
Yeah,
People
there's
are
homes for
renting
rent for that.
cars. I've seen people's weddings where they'll bring in Rolls Royces and Phantoms and Bentleys and G Wagons, and it's like, all right, who is this for? It's all for show. Well, you want to make sure when you're going to pick up the bride, you're going in a nice car. Yeah, so then you could go to your fucking 2-bedroom apartment and pay $3,000 or $2,000 of rent in North Hollywood after. Who are you trying to impress? The people that you don't like. That's who you're trying to impress.
Yeah, it's like you go through your life impressing all these people, and then when you're dead, after 3 weeks, they kind of like forget you, and then after 4 weeks, they completely
Yeah, but-
forget you. But you spend your entire life trying to impress those people that just forgot you after
Yeah.
right? You spend your entire life.
Not only that,
to-
Alan. So imagine that. Imagine you're doing all this. You're spending all this money, all this time to impress people that, again, like I said, literally impress people that you don't like, to go back to your regular lifestyle, to go back on your phone and continue to doom scroll, watch bullshit on your phone, and think, you know what? I want to be like this. I want to be like that. But I'm not like this because I have a 9 to 5 and I can't do this. I can't do. And then all of a sudden you go into this deep, dark
I have a
space.
counter argument for that. If you are young, I think that's okay still, because if you're 17 years old, I remember when I was 17, I would have loved to have an apartment at the Wilshire Corridor, a penthouse. Let's say I would think would be the perfect life, right? Have a Ferrari and go to a club and valet my Ferrari. You would have those dreams. And I think that's okay. And then as you grow older, now I enjoy Joshua Tree, camping, fire, listening to Pavarotti, smoking my cigar.
Yes.
Now I'm thinking I was so stupid. I was never going to be happy with the Wilshire Corridor penthouse. I want to live in a tiny house that's 400 square feet. So the problem is when you're like in your 30s and you're doing all this, right, on social media. And the bigger problem is if you're married and you're a successful, let's say, attorney or a doctor, and you're constantly posting these pictures of you, on social media. It comes down to, why are you doing that, right? That question is, why are you doing that? Is it because you want to get certain type of attention, or is it for marketing purposes? Maybe, I don't know. Attorney posting
certain
videos,
businesses is
wearing
obviously
different
for
dresses.
marketing.
Yeah.
Because social media is marketing. You're not going to market on ARTN or AMGA, whatever these days. You have to do it on social media. But I don't want to completely destroy this generation as far as undermine them, because look, if you look at university admissions and college admissions around the country, it's higher than ever, which means there's probably more international students than before as well.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of kids that do go to college and do have aspirations to become somebody. Like, for example, one of my good friends, his son, 17-year-old, just was accepted to Stanford, and he's going to do amazing things in life. 17 years old, grew up in with money, but not a spoiled kid whatsoever. So there's still, I don't want us to completely give up on the generation thinking
I have
that
a sister.
everybody's spoiled and they're ruined, because they're not. We have a lot of kids going into the Stanfords, and again, I'm not a fan of these universities because I think they destroy this generation.
Individuality.
But I mean, there's no other choice. These are the the pinnacle of education.
Yes,
unfortunately,
my nephew Alec. I have one sister. She has one son. He got his PhD in mathematics and a master's in physics. and he was like 25 years old.
Mhm.
Went to the graduation. So I couldn't be more proud of him, right? This guy is super smart, super down to earth. Like, how come he didn't want to be a Dan Bilzerian, on a boat, shirtless with girls? So why did he choose that path? So you think about it. Is it because my sister and my brother-in-law, they did such a good job?
100% it is.
Yeah,
100%
probably yes.
That's
Probably
part
yes.
of it, but I'll tell you something else.
That's majority of it.
Yes, but today, is it easier to get a PhD and a master's, or to be Dan Bilzerian?
Get a PhD.
Which one's easier?
I think so.
Yeah, exactly.
I think so.
Because
But there's people that'll say the opposite. They'll say it's easier to be a Dan Bilzerian.
that's the misconception, and that's why they follow that route, because they don't understand how many Dan Bilzerians are there around the world. 5, 10, 20. How many mathematicians and PhDs do we have?
Thousands.
Right? I'm not undermining that. It's a great accomplishment. But what I'm saying is they don't understand that. They look at these 5 people that are all, oh shit, Cristiano Ronaldo charges $3 million for a single post on Instagram. Okay? And if you're willing to go play soccer 15 hours a day for 15 years, and maybe you have 1/1,000,000% chance of becoming a Cristiano Ronaldo, then do it. Do it and find out for yourself if you
What's
can.
the end goal? Right. Let's talk about that. Nobody talks about that. What's the end goal, right? Let's say if you do make $3 million per Instagram post. For a 24-year-old, if you ask him, why do you want to have $50 million? What do you think his answer is?
To buy
For-
whatever I want.
For what purpose?
To enjoy it.
To satisfy
To
their
satisfy themselves. To get that dopamine hit. That's
Okay.
what it is.
So basically, it's just flawed, right? The whole thing is just inherently flawed. If you're somebody who a Rolls Royce makes you happy, then you are an incredibly sad person.
Look,
You're extremely lonely.
you have friends who are very wealthy.
Very.
The people that I know most people that I know who can afford the Ferrari,
They don't have it.
they don't have
They
it.
don't have it.
Because once they not even afford it, they can probably buy 20 of them, don't have one. The ones that can buy one always have one.
If a Gucci handbag buying a Gucci handbag brings you happiness, there is something inherently wrong with you. So seek help.
Well, not
And
only
seek some kind of help. I don't know. Don't go buy Deepak Chopra quantum healing garbage. But crystals are going to heal you and things like that. But something is inherently wrong if a Gucci handbag makes you happy. But if listening to music, going in nature, with friends, around the fire, having discussions, that brings you joy, then you're a lot more normal than most people, right?
absolutely.
So there's something wrong with you. If that's why I always ask, what's the end game, right? What's the end game? You want to have $50 million for what? Arno says it brings that person joy. I think it's to get girls.
Well, it depends. Look,
I think it's all about getting girls.
it all depends on who it is. If it's that young single guy, absolutely, it's about getting the girl. But if it's somebody who's married, has children, like for example, I think all 3 of us could concur that if we were to make or inherit or land upon that amount of money, would be to set up our family's wealth for generations for them to be comfortable.
Well, we posted a question about that. What was the response from our viewers?
Majority of them said that they would take the 30K a year.
Because there were
Or 30K a month. Yeah.
4 options,
so
right?
we put up something on Instagram
Okay.
and we asked people, we said, you can pick one of the 4. The first one was, pull it up really quickly.
One was you get a $3 million home.
Yeah, one
paid
was you get a
off.
$3 million paid off home. The other one said,
No bills.
No bills. The other
Retire
one
at
said,
42.
I took the retire at 42 out. So it said,
Oh,
okay, so
unlimited travel fund.
So okay, let's go again. So the question was this. The question was, if you could pick one of the 4, which one would it be? The first one was no bills. The second one was a paid off $3 million home. The third one was unlimited travel expenses paid for. And the last one was $30,000 a month for the rest of your life. Which one would you take?
Travel, probably.
So you took travel, unlimited. Majority of the people picked $30,000 a month for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I would take travel.
Travel.
Yeah. Or I would take, give me the brain of ChatGPT. that would be the ultimate for me.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows everything.
Well, if
Mine, I call him Watson. So
So you speak to ChatGPT.
like 3 hours.
No shit, but speak to it.
Speak to him. I have the unlimited version. I pay for him.
te-
and,
te-
I talk.
tell him what you told me a couple months ago when we were having cigars about the question you asked, and then it
And I corrected.
evolved to your
Yeah.
response a couple weeks later.
So
And we can probably finish
I
off with
humbly
the
have to
story.
say that ChatGPT stole my idea
You broke ChatGPT.
one time. I asked the question. I said, "There's a university in England, and it's the year 1805, and all the scientists are sitting there. The prominent scientists. They're all English speaking. They're sitting in a symposium. They invented a time machine, and they can bring back one person from 2025 there for 35 minutes. 35 minutes only. You have 35 minutes, chalkboard, that's all you have. You don't have a phone, you don't have anything. You appear in that room. In that 35 minutes, what would you say to change the course of human history and to really help mankind?" And ChatGPT came up with a few things, like I would explain electromagnetism, and then he went into those. I would talk about how climate will change, will affect how industrialization, how all the stuff that Armand loves.
The liberal.
Yeah, the
So, yeah.
liberal talking points, He went all out on that. And then I responded to ChatGPT. I said, "But Watson," his name is Watson.
Oh, you named Chat what?
My father calls his ChatGPT Hafez because he's a poet. I said, "Watson, don't you think that spending 7-8 minutes talking about germ theory and infectious disease and how diseases spread, and then spending another 7-8 minutes talking about DNA and mRNA, how proteins are encoded, and another maybe 7-8 minutes about penicillin, how to actually culture penicillin, how to get it, how to kind of synthesize it, would advance mankind more?" And then he came back with the answer with his British accent, "You're right, Allen." After 3 months with my friend's account, we went one night to ChatGPT and we asked those questions, and he brought up the points that I said.
Your points.
Yes.
You fixed ChatGPT.
Well, he fixed
But it's
Watson.
a learning language
Or
model, so
Watson.
it learns a
And
lot of
mind you,
things.
by the way, Watson is Sherlock Holmes' sidekick.
So yeah, sure. What is it? Is it?
Well, yeah, that's
Watson?
what, yeah. well, Sherlock
So
Holmes.
I call
Watson.
it Watson, but so ChatGPT kind of copied what I said, which is,
So when you say you call it Watson, meaning like it responds to you when you say Watson, or
yeah.
oh, you
Yeah,
can name it.
I had no
I
idea.
didn't
Yeah.
know I could name it.
It's just amazing how like it knows everything, and it gets you like totally, it understands you. I'll give you one. I've always thought about this. Like, let's say if we were gonna go to a village in the Amazon where they have never seen anyone ever, they've never seen shoes, and 3 of us go there, and we're given $2 before we leave, and we can go to 7-Eleven or the gas station to buy something, to go there. For us to become gods, for them, what would it be?
$2?
$2. ChatGPT got it in 2 seconds.
I'd say one of them would be a lighter
That's the only thing. Good. That's the only thing you need.
Because when you think,
Yeah, you'll become God there, right? You take a lighter and
all-
you just, Arman puts it behind his, hand and he lights it like this and fire comes out. And then me and Arno will probably like do some gesture where, you are a God and all the people will just do the same. And then we will rule.
society.
We will rule society. We'll write all the rules, right? No masks.
So that's what ChatGPT. That's what ChatGPT said.
ChatGPT said in a second.
It said lighter.
Said a lighter.
Yeah.
Said,
I mean, that's the only logical thing you could come.
Yeah,
kind of.
it reasons like it's incredibly like its reasoning. It's incredible.
I would say
right?
condoms, but I guess life.
Yeah. There was another one I gave him.
That was just
You're-
hot Cheetos.
You're in a prison cell, and there's a light bulb on top of your head. You can open the light bulb and then put it back. There's another room. There's 3 switches, A, B, C. 3 switches. The prison warden tells you, you can go in the room, stay as long as you want, play with the switches. You have to find out which one lights up the light bulb, and I'll let you go. So, but you can't see the light bulb from the other room. You understand? There's
Yeah.
3 switches, A, B, C.
Correct.
One of them turns on the light. He says, just find out which one turns on the light. So the light bulb is in your room, and the other room, there's 3 switches. So you can go in there, stay as long as you want, but you can't see the light bulb. It solved that in less than 1 second.
Are the switches all facing down?
Yeah, the switches are all facing down. So you can play around with it as long as you want, but once you find out which one it is that lights up the light bulb, you get to go home. And so in 1 second, it said, you turn on switch A for 2 minutes. You turn it off, you turn on switch B. You go inside the room. If the light is on, it's switch B. If the light is off, you touch it. If it's hot, it's switch A. And if the light is off and it's cold, it's switch C.
Interesting. Yeah. Very good analogy. Unless it's an LED bulb, then you're screwed.
Yeah, but it solved this in like 1 second. Like 1 second, it solved it. So yeah, if one of your questions had you want to have the brains of ChatGPT, I'd take that any day. Because just
Next time we'll have to add that.
well, if anybody had that brain, the critical thinking of
Well,
ChatGPT is insane.
Look, every single species has critical thinking. Have you ever heard that the monkey and the banana theory?
I think I did.
So they put 2 monkeys inside of this cage, and they hung some bananas at the top of this staircase or like this little shelf thing. And every time the monkeys would go up to get the bananas, they'd spray them with really, really cold water. And then they added a monkey to that cage. So the other 2 monkeys that got sprayed with the water didn't go for the bananas. And then that 3rd monkey went up, tried to grab the bananas, they sprayed it with cold water, and it came back down again. They added another monkey. And as time was going on, I think by the 5th monkey, when that 5th monkey was added, when it tried to climb up to go get the bananas, they grabbed the monkey. They didn't let it go up there because they knew that, shit, if you go up there, we're all going to get fucking sprayed.
Wow.
So it's
They all got sprayed.
yeah,
not
they all got
only-
sprayed. Sorry, that's the one thing I forgot. They all got sprayed. So it became critical thinking. They realized that, shit, if this guy's new, he doesn't know that if he goes up there, we're all going to get sprayed. We got to stop him. So they eventually got to the point where they had like 20 monkeys inside the room, but none of them went up to get the banana. But none of them knew why. Only the first 3 or 4 knew why.
I'm like, this is like totally my language, right? This kind of experiments
Not
are
conspiracy theories, right?
no, these experiments are. This is a crazy one. They take all these monkeys at a university, does a study in a zoo. Male monkeys, female monkeys with children, some without children. They give them coins. You know this one?
I know this one.
This one's hardcore. They give them coins and they teach the monkeys, if you give us the coin, we'll give you fruits.
The grapes.
Grapes.
Right? Yes.
And so After 3 months, they saw that all the female monkeys had all the coins. So they would check the cameras. They found out that the male monkeys were paying the female monkeys to have sex with them. They figured out that the female monkeys want the coin. So they would give the female monkeys the coins for sex,
Prostitution.
for prostitution. And you say we're not monkeys. Here's your proof right there, ladies and gentlemen. We
What
proved
does
to
that
Arno
say about men and
that
women?
we are, what?
What does that say about men and women?
Exactly. What does that say about men? Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, that's what we're driven for, is to create, to protect, to what was it? It was to protect, to provide, and to create.
Procreate.
And women are there for the nurturing and
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that's evolutionary.
I mean, well, that has a lot to do with
What about-
what the male, whether you're a monkey or you're, we're as close to the chimpanzee as DNA wise to any other ape, but it's that's all we're here for. It's fight or flight.
Yeah.
And it's to, you see a female, what's the first thing you think of? Whether
Me?
you're
I wonder
It's
how smart she is.
Discussing anthropology with them.
yes, absolutely. That's
No,
the first thing you
no
discuss,
wonder
right?
you're
That's what I-
single, Alan.
No,
wonder.
yeah, you're right. That's why I'm single.
It's like you
Because I
see a
think about-
female cross by, that's the first thing you think. You know what? I wonder what she thinks of anthropology. And then when you see a male cross by, what do you think? I wonder if I could arm wrestle this guy. I could beat him in arm wrestling.
You know about the Chinese farm and the rats and the corn?
No, I don't. Say this one, and then we got to call it a show,
Yeah.
though.
This is the best one. The Chinese farmers, long time ago, rats were eating all the crops, corn crops.
Okay.
There's nothing he could do. So he made a cage, a trap. He trapped all the rats, a lot of rats in there. He closed it. He didn't feed them anything. He let it stay. In about 6 weeks, the rats started eating each other. So only a few rats survived. Maybe 10 or 20 rats survived. Then you know what he did? He released those rats because now these rats did not have an appetite for the corn. They only had an appetite for the other rats.
Oh, shit.
That's a good closer, huh? And a downer.
Jeez, man.
show.
Think about that before you go to bed tonight.
Think about that when you go to bed.
Yeah, that's a deep one.
That's a deep one, huh?
That's a deep one.
Because they now have appetites for
We
other
gotta
rats.
have Alan back for certain episodes where we sit down, we talk about flat Earth and the moon landing. 'cause-
No.
Well, what do you mean no?
I'd rather talk about rats and monkeys and mosquitoes
Well,
or music. Yeah. Music is a big part of my life.
well,
but-
Alan, we appreciate you taking time to
Thanks
sit down
so
with us.
much.
Sorry
It was
we were
great.
late on everything, bro.
no,
It was
no
just
problem.
it was a little bit of a chaotic day.
I want to give a shout out to all my buddies at PWE, Glendale, city of Glendale. They're all my friends. My friend Lena, Andre, Rostam, Greg, Arpan, Tatevik. I know you guys are watching. Mark and all those guys. They're great people. Sarkis, my man.
Well,
So-
subscribe and hit the like
and
button,
subscribe
guys.
and hit
Yeah.
the like
Well, they
button.
couldn't
A lot
comment
of them
unless they
have.
subscribed. So
The what?
they couldn't comment unless they subscribed.
Oh, so that's why there's
that-
some wise people leaving comments here. I like it.
There you go.
Smart people are watching this
There you
show.
go.
I like that.
Alan,
Thanks for having us, Arno.
we appreciate it, man.
Armand, as always, you're a solid guy.
Great to see you.
I like you. You're the
I
man.
like you too.
Just
man.
Thanks a
him?
lot. And Joe, you, Arno, great guy too.
All right.
Seriously.
Alan John, thank you again.
Thank
Guys,
you so much.
today's episode will be up and running on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all major platforms mañana. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you guys all next week.